My parents stole my inheritance, then acted like I should thank them. They said, "We did it for family." But family doesn't betray for money. This is how I lost everything, and how I finally took it back. I grew up believing my parents were just bad with money. Bills were always late, cars broke down, and my mom had this way of laughing it off. Money comes, money goes, honey. What matters is family. But as I got older, I realized that phrase had a silent ending, as long as you're the one paying for it. When my grandfather passed away, I was 19. He left me a small inheritance, around $70,000. It wasn't life-changing money, but for me, a broke college student working double shifts at a diner, it was everything. He'd told me years before, "You're the only one who listens, kiddo. Don't waste this. Build something real." I didn't even know the money had transferred to me until months later. My parents handled the paperwork, saying they'd help keep it safe until I finished college. And naive as I was, I believed them. For a while, everything seemed fine. But then I started noticing weird things. My mom suddenly got a new SUV. My dad started talking about finally fixing the deck and planning a trip to Cancun. When I asked how they could afford it, my mom laughed. "Your father's bonus, sweetheart. Don't worry about adult stuff." Something about her tone felt off. I checked my bank account one night, the inheritance account my grandfather's lawyer helped set up. Zero. Balance. $0. My hands shook. I thought it had to be a mistake. Next morning I called the lawyer. He confirmed the transfer. The funds had been withdrawn in full by my legal guardians, my parents. I drove home that weekend, my heart pounding the whole way. At dinner, I tried to bring it up casually. "Hey, Mom, Dad, about Grandpa's account." Mom's smile froze. Dad dropped his fork. "We used that money," my mom said finally. "You weren't ready to handle that kind of responsibility." I couldn't even breathe. "Used it for what?" Dad sighed. "For the family, of course. You live under this roof. You eat our food. That inheritance benefited you too." I remember just staring at them. They didn't look guilty. They looked offended that I even asked. Weeks turned into months. Every time I tried to talk about it, they flipped the script. "We raised you. You should be grateful. Money doesn't define family. Stop being selfish. Your grandfather would hate to see you fighting over dollars." I started to feel crazy. Friends told me to cut contact. But how do you cut off your own parents? Then, one night, my little sister accidentally spilled everything. She was only 14, and she thought I already knew. Mom said Grandpa wanted them to use it to pay off the mortgage. That's why she was so happy after the bank called. I remember just standing there, frozen. Mortgage, Cancun, SUV, bonus. It all made sense. They hadn't just borrowed it, they'd spent every cent. After that, things between us turned cold. I moved out, got my own apartment, and tried to rebuild. But no matter what I did, there was this weight on my chest, this constant ache of betrayal. I'd built up savings again, worked 2 jobs, kept my grades up. Then, last year, I got engaged. My fiancé, Ryan, was the first person who really understood. When we started planning the wedding, I decided to invite my parents cautiously, hoping maybe time had softened them. They accepted. I should have known that wasn't a good sign. At dinner one night, my mom casually mentioned, "By the way, your father and I will need seats near front. After all, we're helping pay for this wedding." Ryan looked at me confused. "Helping?" he asked. "With what?" Mom smiled. "Well, technically, the down payment you two are using is from our account." My stomach dropped. I hadn't told them anything about our finances because I didn't want them near them. "What account?" I asked. She tilted her head, all innocence. "The one Grandpa left. We used it to build a future for you. So really, this wedding is thanks to us." Ryan squeezed my hand under the table, sensing the rage building in me. I forced a smile and excused myself. That night, I cried in the parking lot. They didn't just steal my money. They stole my story, turned my grandfather's final gift into their trophy. A few weeks later, I got a call from my grandfather's lawyer again. He said he'd been contacted by a financial investigator. Apparently, one of my parents' accounts was under review. There'd been unusual activity linked to estate funds. I told him everything, every receipt, every lie. He said something that chilled me. "If you pursue this, it will get ugly. Are you ready for that?" Was I? I didn't know. But I also knew I couldn't live the rest of my life letting them pretend they'd done nothing wrong. I sent my mom one last message. "I know what you did, and I'm done pretending." She didn't reply. Instead, she called my sister and told her I was trying to ruin the family. Within hours, my aunts and cousins were messaging me, attacking me. "You're just bitter. It was their money anyway. You're going to destroy your mother's health." It was like watching a cult in real time. I blocked them all. Then came the final straw. A few days later, I got a call from my dad. His voice was calm. Too calm. "You've made a big mistake, kid. We did what we had to do. And if you drag our name through the mud, you'll regret it." It wasn't a threat. Exactly. It was a promise. That night, Ryan and I sat on the couch in silence. He finally said, "You know what? Maybe this is your chance to tell the truth. Publicly." That's when I decided to post my story. Not here, not to get sympathy, but because I needed to reclaim what they'd taken from me. My voice. The post went viral. Tens of thousands of people commented, sharing their own family horror stories. Some called me brave. Others told me to sue. And then, 3 days later, I got an email from a law office, a name I recognized immediately. My parents had lawyered up. They were threatening me for defamation. Of course they were, because in their minds, they were the victims. The weeks that followed were chaos, messages, screenshots, family drama. But the thing that broke me wasn't the lawsuit threat. It was the voicemail from my sister. "They said you hate us, but I don't think you do. I just miss you." Her voice cracked at the end. I sat there, holding my phone, realizing that their lies weren't just about money. They'd stolen my relationship with my own sister, too. I didn't respond. Not yet. Because I needed time and proof, I started collecting every piece of evidence I could. Emails, transfers, texts. Turns out the inheritance hadn't even gone only to my parents. There was a second transfer, one I'd never seen, to an account under my mother's maiden name. It wasn't just carelessness. It was planned. That's where I'll stop for now. Because the next part, the part where I confront them with everything I found, is the moment everything changed. The moment I realized family isn't about blood, it's about boundaries. And when the truth finally came out, none of us were ever the same again. The day I decided to confront them, it wasn't rage that drove me. It was clarity. I'd spent months replaying their lies, their justifications, their smiling faces at my engagement dinner. And I realized if I didn't face them now, they'd keep rewriting my story forever. So I called the lawyer. We met in his office, a quiet room that smelled like old books and tension. He'd reviewed every document I sent, the transfers, the fake accounts, the emails. He looked up from his folder and said quietly, You have enough here to open a criminal case. My stomach tightened. Criminal, he'd said. About my own parents. I didn't rush it. For weeks, I went back and forth. Could I really do this? Then I thought about my grandfather, the man who taught me to save, to work hard, to be honest. He trusted them to protect his legacy for me. Instead, they treated it like a vacation fund. So, yes, I decided to do it. I filed the report. Fraud, misuse of estate funds, identity concealment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. When the investigator called them, I wasn't there, but I can imagine it. My dad, trying to sound authoritative, my mom pretending she was confused. Then the silence when they realized it wasn't a bluff. A week later, I got a text from my mother. No greeting, just, "How could you do this to us?" "No, sorry. No, we messed up." Just guilt, manipulation, the same tools they'd always used. Then the phone started ringing. My aunts, my uncle, my cousin, all of them parroting the same script. Family doesn't take family to court. You're destroying everything over a misunderstanding. But this time, I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just said one thing. Ask her why there's an account under her maiden name. Click. Silence. The investigation moved fast once the paper trail came out. Turns out they hadn't just used my inheritance. They'd borrowed against my grandfather's house after he died without legal permission. When the truth came out, the family group chat exploded. People who'd called me ungrateful suddenly went quiet. A few even messaged me privately. "We had no idea. We're so sorry." But I didn't want their pity. I wanted peace. Then came the hardest part, seeing them again. They requested mediation instead of court. I agreed, not because I wanted to, but because I needed closure. It was held in a small office downtown. Ryan came with me. When they walked in, I almost didn't recognize them. My mom's eyes were puffy. My dad looked smaller, somehow, deflated. But the moment she saw me, her expression hardened. "We didn't steal," she said immediately. "We used the money responsibly. For the family." I took a deep breath. "You forged documents. You opened an account in a false name. That's not responsible. That's theft." Dad looked at me like he couldn't believe I was speaking to him that way. After everything we've done for you, there it was, again, the victim act. The mediator asked if we'd like to reach an agreement. My mom snapped. "Yes, we want our daughter to stop this nonsense and apologize." Ryan laughed, an actual laugh that broke the tension. The mediator frowned. I pulled out the folder and slid it across the table. Inside were copies of the transfers, bank statements, and one email, the one where my mom wrote to the bank pretending to be me. Her face drained of color. The room went silent. For once, she couldn't spin it. That's when I said the words I'd rehearsed for months. "You didn't just take my money. You took my trust, my peace, my name. And you used Grandpa's love like a weapon. I'm not doing this because I hate you. I'm doing this because I finally love myself enough to stop being your scapegoat." She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just stared like she was looking at a stranger. And maybe she was. The case didn't go to trial. They settled. Legally, they had to repay what was left, a fraction of what they'd stolen. But I didn't care about the money anymore. What mattered was this. For the first time in my life, they were accountable. After the settlement, months passed in silence. No calls, no texts. Christmas came and went. My sister didn't show up either. Part of me wanted to reach out, to fix it. But Ryan reminded me, "You can't heal in the same place that broke you." He was right. Then, one day, I got a letter. No return address. Inside, A handwritten note in my sister's messy handwriting. I know you didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry for believing them. Mom says you hate us, but I think she's just scared. I miss you. Tears hit the page before I could stop them. She'd slipped her number at the bottom. When we finally met, she was taller, quieter. She ordered the same drink she always did, a caramel latte with too much whipped cream. We sat there for hours, catching up. She told me what life was like at home. They act like nothing happened, she said. Dad still complains about money. Mom says she did it to save the family. But they barely talk to each other anymore. I felt a pang of sadness, not victory. Just the loss of something that used to be whole. As we left the cafe, she hugged me tight. I just want you to know I'm proud of you. No one ever stands up to them. That hit me harder than anything else, because for years I thought I was weak. Turns out I'd just been raised to believe silence was loyalty. Months later, the story came full circle. I got another call from my grandfather's lawyer. Apparently, when the estate was fully closed, there'd been one final clause that nobody had noticed. My grandfather had left a small property, a cabin, to me directly, separate from the inheritance. He'd written, "For when you finally find peace, not just success." It wasn't worth much. But to me, it was everything. Ryan and I drove there that weekend. The cabin was old, surrounded by pine trees, with a porch swing that creaked in the wind. I sat there watching the sunset and felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. My parents still don't speak to me. Sometimes I think about calling them. Then I remember the look on my mother's face in that mediation room, that mix of fear and denial. Maybe one day she'll reach out. Maybe not. But I've stopped waiting for apologies that will never come. Because closure isn't something they can give me. I had to build it myself. People online still message me sometimes. They say, "You were brave to stand up to them." I wish I could do the same. And I always tell them the truth. You can, but it hurts. And you'll lose people. But what you'll gain, your peace, your voice, your truth, is worth more than anything they could ever steal. A few weeks ago, my sister sent me a picture. It was my mom's old SUV sold, and a note. She said she's paying off the last of what she owes. I think she's starting to understand. I stared at that message for a long time. Not angry, not even relieved, just done. I drove back to the cabin again last weekend. Brought some of Grandpa's old things: his radio, his fishing hat, a picture of us on the dock. I sat by the fire and said out loud, "You were right, Grandpa. I built something real." And for the first time, I meant it, because I finally realized family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who shares your values. And when people show you who they are, believe them. If you've ever been betrayed by family, you'll understand this. The healing doesn't come when they say sorry. It comes the day you stop needing them to. And that's what I did.